So good afternoon, Happy New Year. I would like to call to order the Salary Board Reorganization Meeting for the 5th of January. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cross.
Present.
Commissioner Hertzler.
Here.
Commissioner Eichelberger. Controller Whitcomb.
Here.
Is there any public comment to come before the Salary Board? Hearing none, item number 4 is a reorganization that is required by the county code. And as we begin, I will also state that the county code requires that the chairman of the Board of Commissioners serve as the chair of the Salary Board. So with that, I will go to item number B and ask for a nomination for the vice chairman. Is there a nomination?
I'll make a nomination that Commissioner Hertzler be vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number C, is there a nomination for secretary?
I'll make a nomination for Commissioner Eichelberger to be secretary.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5, before you are the minutes for December 2nd of this last year. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve these minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6 is the approval of the 2015 salary book. Is there a motion for that approval?
I'll make a motion to approve that book.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 7 is the approval of the salary board actions. Is there a motion to approve those actions?
I'll make a motion to approve those actions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any other business to come before the salary board? Hearing none, we're adjourned. If you will stand as you're able and join me by saying, I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call to order the Board of Commissioners for January the 5th. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cross. Present. Commissioner Hertzler.
Here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Is there any public comment to come before the Board of Commissioners? Yes.
Denny Debo, Clerk's Court, West Hemphill Township. During the December 8th deliberations on adoption of the 2015 budget, in response to Commissioner Hertzler's complaint that no changes were being made to the budget as proposed by staff, Commissioner Eichelberger replied that, quote, "A lot of us have been engaged in this for a very long time. We do have some staff that provide expert analysis, and we have to learn to trust them to some degree. That, by the way, is an assessment of the staff that I generally agree with. However, it was quite a surprising statement coming from Commissioner Eichelberger when just a few minutes before he excoriated said budget with such phrases as the great Houdini budget that relies on gimmicks to mask the county's financial problems and hocus pocus." I was just wondering how Commissioner Eichelberger reconciles his statements to Commissioner Hertzler about the staff with such an extremely negative analysis of the budget the staff proposed.
The budget is ultimately the decision of the commissioners. When the commissioners give guidance that leads to a hocus-pocus budget, responsibility for the hocus-pocus budget lies with the commissioners.
But it was
Staff takes their
staff.
direction from the overall consensus of this board. But Denny, frankly, this budget is addressed. I continue to be amazed how you have time for everything except your own job at this place. And that goes directly to the question that I have said as to why do we have such a top-heavy management structure here? And there's no doubt that I've pissed off a lot of Republican regulars like yourself. You know, now that these types of questions come up, then you want to bring in this kind of politics into this session. So it's just
This isn't politics. You're the one that condemned the budget that
I do
staff
condemn the
proposed.
budget.
And
I
then
do
you
condemn the budget.
Praise the staff who produced the budget that you condemned.
That's right. The staff can only provide the budget based on the guidance they receive from senior management staff and from the commissioners.
Well, if you can ask questions about the budget, then Commissioner Hertzler can
He can
also.
certainly ask questions about the budget. That's absolutely true, and he did, and no one said that he could not do that. My point very simply was, we have a year to address this budget. When a budget is put on display, and then major modifications are finally presented a week after they're put on display, and this board finally starts talking about substantive changes to the budget at that point, that points to a fundamental failing of this board when it comes to budgetary matters.
Well, if the county's financial problems are so bad, why didn't you propose some actual changes yourself? Why don't you go on record and bring some actual concrete directive proposals to the table for a vote?
I will repeat what I've said. When I got here, we put a very concrete plan in place. Many of the things that Mr. Thomas has been charged with implementing here are things that have been on this table for a decade.
Well, then why don't you bring them to the table so we can see whether these two people are as bad as what you say they are? Because you never bring anything to the table to give us an opportunity to see how they actually vote.
Well, then
all we
you,
hear about
sir, are
supposedly
definitely
happens.
wrong. You haven't been paying attention. Because we had a severe debate here last year on things that we could do to fix this budget. I've made it very clear, we need ongoing accountability standards, we need more long-range planning. These ideas for...
They don't save money.
Absolutely they do. Absolutely
Put
they
the
do.
proposal on the table that results from those
Absolutely they
things,
do.
and that's
Gain sharing was something that was proposed a decade ago. There was no support for it here over the last 6 or so years by management and by commissioners. We're finally seeing savings from that. I advocated years ago that we begin addressing the cost profile of our staff. When this economy went in the toilet a few years ago, I made a comment that we would be lucky if we got through the recession without having to do layoffs, which every county around us has done. My colleagues at the time fell over themselves practically calling a press conference saying they weren't going to lay anybody off. Again, another deferral of finding a solution. So when we now have finally started to address these things, well after the fact, when something meaningful could have been done, now we're forced to do things like freezing people's salaries.
And I previously showed you the trend line for expenses and growth in the budget and debt has decreased since 2008. Hasn't increased, it has decreased. It was much lower than what it was from when you came into office.
I don't know what
in
you're talking
2008.
about, frankly.
Pardon?
I don't know what you're talking about. Now, we have real business
I brought
conduct
this.
here. We have real business. Yeah, I've seen your phony baloney numbers plenty of times.
It's not phony baloney. You can check the
Danny.
finance office. That's why I say one more thing. As of the October Financial Analysis Committee's presentation, we are looking at a projected 2% per year gap between income and expenses, which includes funds for the pay for performance, which you claim not know where it was going to come from. No one wants their
There's
taxes
no current money
paid.
there. There's no current money for performance pay in this year's budget. There's
Pardon?
none. There's no money in this year's budget for
I didn't say there wasn't this year's budget. I said as of the October Financial Analysis Committee's presentation, you wouldn't put money in the 2015 budget that isn't going to be expended in 2016.
Why not?
Why
We
would
do it
you?
for bridges.
Why would you?
We do it for bridges. We do it because we
Well,
can't
then-
afford it all in 1 year. We should be putting money aside for various things.
It won't be expended in 2016. But it was included in the Financial Analysis Committee's October presentation.
That's
That was
right.
included in those figures. So you know that we're basically looking at 2% per year difference. No one wants their taxes raised, but after at least 10 years of austere operations, and especially the last 5 years, does anyone know that in 2013 total expenses actually decreased 3.16% from 2012? Has that ever been announced to anybody? Was anybody aware of that? I wasn't aware of that.
This county faces a gap that it doesn't know how
That
it's
is
going
going
to
to be
address.
avoided long term. The only viable solution is to cut some services. And if that's your vision, the citizen has the right to know exactly what it is that you want to cut. Thank you.
This county, I'll stand by what I've said for the 11 years I've been here. This county needs to manage this in a more business-like manner. That means long-range planning where you make priorities. It means you have accountability standards where every year the commissioners sit down here with performance indicators for each and every program. And then we can decide. If there's a 5% gap, we can decide whether we want to cut 5% or whether those programs are important enough and performing well enough that we have to make a revenue adjustment. So accountability standards, something I've been pushing for, something I ran on and continue to run on, something we're finally getting a little bit of implementation on 11 years later. Long-range planning, got to set priorities. Number 3, this board should be exercising more support for economic development. That was the number 3 thing that Bruce Barkley and I talked about when we ran for office. Let's build the tax base of this county, let's make a pro-business county, let's have more people paying for the taxes instead of the same number of people paying more taxes each and every year.
Finding how much impact for 2008. Okay.
Okay? I've pretty much outlined consistently, about as consistently as anything is in this county government, exactly where I think this county government needs to be. I'm happy to take another look at your numbers. I'd like to know what they are, because I'm not making sense of what you're saying. The point is, everybody's taxes went up 12%, and it was going to be 30% if the budget office proposal had gone through, but some of us stayed at the table and made sure we worked that number down. Then it was going to be 22%. When I said dead on arrival and repeated it in the press so that it would be, that it would finally receive the kind of attention. And we worked very hard to push that down to 12%, 3% the next year. But you know what? Look out in the future years. That gap is not taken care of. We have a lot of work ahead of us. And if that means cutting some services, then that may have to be. But the point is, we said years ago, we needed to realign the rewards and compensation system of this county so that it was not out of bounds with what the private sector had. Nobody wanted to touch it until it fell apart. Then everybody can respond. Well, we've been spending too much time and energy in this county government, making all our decisions on a crisis basis and trying to dig out of a problem instead of trying to prevent problems like we used to do.
You should have made a change in this budget so you could make that progress on that, and you did.
You can certainly wring your hands and roll your sleeves up at the same time. I was told that by a very dear friend, and I can tell you this too. The budget is voted on. So if the budget was not satisfactory, then there was every opportunity for you not to support the budget.
That's right.
So the budget went, as I believe, as a 3-0 budget, but I certainly expressed my no vote at times on this board and would expect that my colleagues would do the same. So any additional comments on the budget court's remarks?
Well, I'll just say that, I'm sure we're going to have more of this conversation as the year goes forward. Undoubtedly, this is, in the political realm of things, so I'm not going to belabor it. I will say, though, that when I suggested 2 small changes to the budget that was finally adopted, which my colleagues, did not entertain, essentially I offered suggestions on how we could reduce the budget to provide for what I had talked about. And I will say that, in fact, those 2 areas that I had talked about were not discussed or decided upon. Commissioner Eichelberger said that, well, this is decided all during the year. That's why I asked the questions, at the budget hearing, okay, what was appropriated for farmland preservation for the 2015 program for the general fund budget? And what I heard from my colleagues was $40,000, even though you can page through that 275 plus page budget and not find that. You won't see that, it doesn't jump out. I offered suggestions on how to improve this budget. And unfortunately, they fell on deaf ears. Those suggestions fell on deaf ears, but I'm only one commissioner, and we're going to move forward. And I thought at the end of the day that the budget didn't call for tax increase. I think there's a lot of good in the budget, and that's why I ended up voting for it. But I certainly didn't call it a Houdini budget or anything like that. Each one of us are entitled to our differences of opinion, I suppose. But the important thing, and I think what people are interested in, is us moving forward as a county. So that's all I have to say.
I admire you for making proposals to fix what you thought needed fixed.
Are there any other public comments? Comments from the public. Item number 4. Is there a motion for the appointment of Jennifer Crum as the Open Records Officer for the Cumberland County Commissioner's Office?
So,
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5. Is there a motion for the adoption of ordinance 2015-1, levying a fee for local use on all non-exempt vehicles registered to an address located within Cumberland County to become effective April the 7th of this year?
I'm sure I'd be pleased to make that motion.
Is there a second?
second.
So any further discussion on the ordinance?
Yeah, I do want to say the ordinance that we're about to adopt here, talking about budget, talking about taxes. This motion relieves our county property taxpayers of the unavoidable and pending cost of replacing and repairing our county's backlog of structurally deficient bridges. If we didn't have the option of this $5 vehicle registration fee, as authorized by the General Assembly and signed into law by Governor Corbett with the enactment of Act 89 of 2013. We would be looking at successive county property tax increases in each of the next 6 years, costing our homeowners and other county property taxpayers millions of additional dollars just for this purpose. Instead, we clearly have a fairer option, the vehicle registration fee, an option that allows us to spread this burden more broadly and more fairly to all those who own and operate vehicles on our county's roads, highways, and bridges. There is an indisputable need here. We've got some $39 million worth of bridge work that can no longer be delayed. We can't kick this can down the road any longer. The cost of this work is only going to go up. Of the 28 county-owned bridges that we have, 9 of which are jointly owned with York County, 14 are weight restricted right now, 17 are structurally deficient, several others are functionally obsolete, and 4 are currently closed. It's really time to get moving on these projects, and the $5 vehicle registration fee option, expected to generate $1.1 million annually for our county, is the way that will allow us to do just that, get moving. Thank you.
I believe it's a way to start, at least.
I have a comment. I would echo most of what was said. The question of bridges and roadways. Bridges for the county is something we can't ignore and has to be addressed. I find it interesting, though, that somehow we could never find the money in the general fund. There just wasn't any money in the general fund for this, so we have to enact and defeat it. But yet, a few weeks ago, we did find all kinds of new money for the Farmland Preservation Program. So I understand that this will be on a recurring basis, and that's important. But we also don't know what the state's going to step up and do in the future. So to me, that's some of the hocus pocus. We couldn't find money for bridges. We had to put new taxes in place, or new fees in place. But suddenly we can find all kinds of money with cuts here or there that may or may not be real. So the right thing is we can find money in the budget. Another thing is we had no choice, we had no choice.
I think my suggestions relative to the budget and the changes were, I think, something in the neighborhood of less than 1/10% of the county's general fund budget. So if somehow or another that prevented us from repairing our structurally deficient bridges, I'd love for you to spell that out to me.
Well, I'm just saying, now you can find the money for additional farmland preservation, despite all the work of the budget office. We found these cuts, but we couldn't find any money for the bridges when this was originally discussed.
And I proposed reductions in the budget. I think your family mentioned to make room for those adjustments, those minor adjustments that I suggested.
And we couldn't make those adjustments to find money for the bridges.
I don't know whether you're going to find $39 million in adjustments to make, Commissioner.
Well, I addressed that by saying it's current, it's not recurring, but we don't know what the future holds. We're seeing movement by the state on various other things as well. You can always fill the gap for 1 year and wait to see what the state's going to do. But this will be a comprehensive solution. I hope it's a good one. It is definitely needed. I'm just saying that there may have been a different way we could have avoided this fee, but apparently there isn't. I'm supporting the fee as well, reluctantly, because I do think we could have found some money in the general fund, at least for 1 year, to find out what the state was going to do with bridges. But I think I've made my point, so I'm supporting it.
Well, the only other comment I would make is that, and I did mention, as a result of the HATS approval, Coordinating Committee approval of the long-range plan, there is state funding, federal state funding that's going to be made available to help with a number of these projects. But at the end of the day, the county has its share, and it's our obligation. These are owned by the county.
Any additional comments? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6. Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes of December the 18th and December the 22nd from last year?
I'm going to ask for separate motions since I was in attendance the 22nd, but not on the 18th.
I will so move for the minutes for December the 18th. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Stay.
Here's one abstain. Is there a motion for the minutes of December the 22nd?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 7 is the approval of personnel transactions. Is there a motion for the approval of these personnel transactions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion of personnel transactions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 8 are the approval of the grants from A through E that were presented during the workshop of December the 31st. Is there a motion to approve those contracts and grants?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 9 is the approval of Keith Commissary to provide inmate commissary services at the Cumberland County Prison that was reviewed and presented during the workshop. Is there a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 10, is there a motion for the approval of Easton Coach Company to provide transportation services to work release inmates at Cumberland County Prison that was presented during the workshop?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Have all questions that were raised during the workshop been answered? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 11, I will so make the motion for the reappointment to the Cumberland County Municipal Authority for Jenny Kane Anderson and Steve Holt. These are 5-year terms with an expiration of their term of 12/31/2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 12, Commissioner Hertzler is a reappointment to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority.
Madam Chair, I think it's just a reappointment to the redevelopment authority board. So I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Louis R. Martin to a new 5-year term, retroactive to January 1 through December 31, 2019, 5-year term.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 13 are additional reappointments for the local emergency planning.
Under A there, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Dennis Powell of 7 Vaughan Road, Newville, to a new term on the Local Emergency Planning Committee, retroactive to January 1 through December 31, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number B through E are for Commissioner Eichelberger.
Okay, we have, as discussed on Thursday's workshop, Industrial Development Authority has provided us recommendations for reappointment of Parker Kuhn and Omar Shute, both for 3-year term expiring end of 17, and for John Durham in Kentucky, end of 16, 2-year terms. So I will move for approval of those recommendations.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, also Recycling and Waste Authority, we did 2 reappointments, but we had 1 vacancy recently created, and we were successful in recruiting Mr. Glenn Jordan to serve the 1-year term ending December 31 of this year. So I'll make the motion for his appointment.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Blighted Property Reinvestment Board, we have 2 appointments, 2 reappointments, both of them, 3-year term, end of 17, Chris Nahr, and Lou Martin. For those, I'll make that motion.
Second, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And for the
Okay.
Planning Commission.
County Planning Commission, We have 4 positions, these are 4-year terms, so they'd be expiring at the year 18. Christopher Nard, reappointment, Barbara Wilson, reappointment, new appointment, Rob Clegg, and Debbie Eller is leaving, so I would request that we send a letter of thanks for her years of service to the group. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 14, we have a board appointment for the capital area transit, and the chief clerk will handle that.
Thank you. Somehow great people can begin with simply saying no. I think that once you can add a lot of solid factual analysis, that act of simple defiance can be translated into beneficial and positive action, including better transportation, savings, significant savings to the taxpayers of all the counties in this region. What we've seen happen with CAT over the last 4 to 5 months began with a simple saying, no more business as usual. I think has developed today where we stand on the brink of major change through regionalization, accountability, and cost savings. And that groundswell has come from the bottom up, both in Cumberland County and Dauphin County. Mike Clapsaddle has put his request to be considered for our member on the board for the Capital Area Transit Company. Mike has been a leader in the development of a new approach on the part of Cumberland County and also alongside our colleagues in Dauphin County, taking a look not at how business has always been done or how to marginally change it, but how to turn this thing on its head and make it into, I think, what everybody would agree and hope would be a much better, more economical way to approach transportation with our colleagues in Harrisburg and Dauphin County. We're at a neat opportunity working with the folks from PennDOT to move forward and accomplish an enormous amount in a short time period. I cannot think of anyone better to help lead that effort as our board representative than Mike himself. Mike has worked in conjunction with Kirk Stoner and myself as well to help put these issues in front of CAP and in front of the commissioners in both counties. I believe that Mike can do the best job possible of helping to ensure that this moves forward and that we take advantage of the opportunities. In considerable gratitude for all the service and efforts that have come before this point, I would respectfully request that we consider Mike's request for appointment to the board of the Capital Area Transit.
These are 5-year terms.
That's correct, yeah. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mike Clapsaddle of 662 Shannon Road, Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, to a 5-year term on the Capital Area Transit Authority Board, January 2015 through December 31, 2019.
I'll second that motion. I have a couple questions. The other individual on the board is Rick Ravino, and he has how many years remaining on his term? Do we know that?
It ends the end of this year,
And
of 19 of this year.
Mr. Don Gusway is answering that question for the board, who currently serves and
I
is
am
looking
currently, currently up for reappointment, yeah.
for a third, which would be a 15-year term. 2 terms. You've been on 2 terms.
Yes, I'm not sure of the 5 years. I was thinking it was 3. Not being facetious.
I have 5-year terms, and
Okay.
that this would be your 3rd term.
Yes,
Okay.
but Rick's ends at the end of 2015.
So at December of this year,
Yes,
there would be an opportunity for another
Yes.
appointment.
Okay, in making the motion, first of all, I want to thank Don for his years of service on CAT Group. And this change, if you will, is no reflection on Don's dedication and service. What I do think is that, and Chief Clerk touched on it a little bit, is that Mike brings to this position a different set of credentials. He has been involved with respect to the analysis of the finances of CAT. I think with Mike's background as a deputy controller and accounting and financial skills, that again he brings a specific set of expertise to this discussion, and so that's the only reason why I am supporting Mike. Again, this is no reflection on any of in my position, no reflection on the work that the other members of the board have done over the years, and particularly Don, I want to thank you for your service.
It's important to know that there are two representatives from Cumberland County, and the Commissioner Hertzler sits as the liaison to the capital area. Any additional comments?
Yes, I have some comments. And just to reiterate, Mr. Baxter is in the audience here today. Don, you've served with us for quite a while now. You were appointed, I believe, in my first term when the board was in place at that point. And I frankly want to thank you for doing a great job. My understanding is that you requested reappointment. Am I correct? Okay. But the commissioners now in this motion essentially refusing your reappointment. So I'm not sure I really understand the logical reason for that. I do hear what the chief clerk said a moment ago about Mr. Clapsaddle. He was brought to our analysis, our overdue analysis here, in terms of what we receive from Capital Area Transit, what it's costing us, and he's provided us with excellent information. And I would love to see Mike on that board. He is one of the most talented people, I believe, in this county operation. One of about 3 or 4 people I think who really get it and who can help pull this county into a much more sustainable arrangement in terms of both regionalism policies and budget policies, and making sure those things sync up, which they always, of course, need to do. Don, you've done fine work, and I have no problems with your work. I have no problem having my Clapsaddle on the board. Right now, we have 1 vacancy. So apparently the supposedly logical action to take here is to turn down your request. Even though we just made a number of appointments, some of which are probably 3rd or 4th termers. So I don't quite buy the idea that you've been there too long. It's not how we practice business here. It's not how long you're in the chair. It's what you do while you're there. So I'd like to see Mike Clapsaddle on the board, and I'd like to see Don Geisler on the board. There's frankly one way of that happening, which I have suggested to this board in other meetings. We do have another individual who's currently seated on that board by the name of Richard Trevino. A few of you may have heard of him. I think our solution here, to my mind, actually would be to ask Mr. Rubino to essentially step aside for the next year. And I say this for one very good reason. There's no secret that Mr. Rubino has told most of Cumberland County that he's going to be a candidate for county commissioner in 2015. Now, it's a free country. Everybody is free to run. Good for him. He has a wealth of experience that we have tapped into both in his time as commissioner and since. And we can continue to do that. However, I am a little troubled by the fact that Rick, apparently, even though he is not officially announced, is going to be the spokesman for this board at a critical juncture of negotiations, at the same time that he essentially is running against this board. Obviously, there are things about this board he doesn't care for, or he will be running against this. As far as I know, we have 3 seated commissioners, all of whom have expressed an interest in re-election, and there are only 3 seats. So I think that we have to ask the question of whether he can be an effective representative for us in both capacities, but more importantly, even even if that is, I think we have to ask the question of what questions that raises with others, particularly those on the capital board and other stakeholders in that process. I think it would be natural, even if Commissioner Rubino performed in an exemplary fashion and reflected the wishes of this board, there would be questions regarding whose interests he is representing. I don't think we need to bring that type of distraction into the negotiations at this point. And I think a transition at this point as well, number one, automatically will appear to be a no confidence vote in Mr. Geiswhite, which is certainly not deserved, and others have said, but there are perceptions regardless. But I think it also raises questions about the commissioners and the direction they have set in regards to CAT if we feel a need to change courses in midstream, as the old political saying goes. And as a longtime appointee here who has served this county in many capacities, not just CAT, but also with the airport authority and in many unofficial capacities as well, because of his vast connections to the community. I think Don does an exemplary job there and continue to do an exemplary job for us in that. And I think it would be a loss for our standing if we are to, in the middle of this, suddenly jettison him from the negotiations he's been part of, and a useful part. If any question exists as to whether Don has carried the water of the commissioners adequately, and that is part of the job, I think the bigger question is whether the commissioners have consistently communicated to him what our wishes and desires are in his role, not his ability to carry it out. So I would ask the board to at least entertain again the idea that perhaps simply asking Commissioner Rubino if he would voluntarily place his position on hold for the duration of the campaign election. And that vacancy would then allow us to appoint Mr. Clapsaddle, would remove all questions regarding the interference of politics into the negotiation process of CAT, and allow us to gain the expertise of both Mr. Geiswhite and Mr. Clapsaddle, who are very knowledgeable on these issues, and I believe represented the county over exceptionally.
As liaison to CAP, any comment?
I just say, I think we have, a vacancy, the term coming to an end, and we should deal with that issue.
I'm sorry.
Deal with that issue today.
There is a motion in a second, and I believe the request for reappointment is not, in my opinion, an automatic reappointment. An expression's been made by another individual to serve on this board. The appointment of Rick Rubino to the board was a decision by this board, and whether the perception is political or not, to have him now remove himself is in fact a very political statement, and one which I would very much doubt many in this county would certainly agree to. So I look at both resumes, sort of like that scholarship committee that you sit on, and take the names off. And resume is brought to me with a request to serve this county in a role that at this junction, for the finances, for the questions, for the auditing, for the controversies and all that have come up in the last 6 months at least, and will probably be here for the next 6 months ahead, with this agency, board, whatever. I believe that the service that Mr. Geiswhite has provided and continues to on HAT and the airport have been well served. For me, this is that best opportunity to take this resume of the individual and move forward. So there's a motion in a second. All those in favor of the appointment of Mike Clapsaddle to fill the vacancy on the capital say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Item number 15, the general disbursement and transfer authorizations are A through B. Is there a motion for the disbursement and transfer authorizations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Item number 16, I'd like to record the executive session held on December 31st of last year, 2014, at 9:20 a.m. for personnel issues. Item number 17, I'd like to announce the monthly reports that were accepted from Veterans Affairs and Recycling and Waste for December of 2014. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Commissioners? Yes, sir.
Yes, I would like to take this opportunity and with great pleasure to introduce our new Director of Human Resources, Mr. Nate. Could you stand up? Sure. Nate comes to us, comes to Cumberland County with a wealth of experience. We went through a pretty rigorous search process, and Mr. Doty prevailed over a pretty impressive field of candidates. And I think we're very fortunate to have him on board. And hopefully he's rested up because he's going to need all the energy he can get. So, welcome aboard, Nate.
Thank you. Look forward, happy to be here and look forward to supporting and serving for the county and supporting the commissioners, the staff, and all the employees.
Great.
I've worked with Nate, he's a good guy.
And Don says you're
Welcome aboard.
and it would be remiss of us not to express gratitude to our former Director of Human Resources who voluntarily stepped down to create this vacancy, Mr. Doty has agreed to fill, and that is to me perfect. And big thank you for your many years of service. And we look forward to your continued support to Nate as he transitions into this role. And I don't know that you'll be going home any earlier than you do now. Doesn't look like it.
Maybe not. But we'll figure it out. Is there any other business?
You're still going to do the work, he's going to get all the glory.
Yeah, it looks that way.